You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Cabral Concept. I'm glad you could join me here today on this Training Thursday show, where we are going to break down the 7 keys to a long and healthy life. These 7 keys are taken from all of the Eastern-based philosophies, all of the natural-based forms of medicine, and while at the same time combined with state-of-the-art research and science. So this is one of those articles, and I read this article previously and got the idea for it, and I want to see the author's name so I can give them credit, and it was Wesley White. So just want to give a little shout out. I always like to give credit where credit's due. So here's the thing. I've read many books and research articles and had the pleasure of working with many people throughout the year. Now, when you're reading and you're doing your research and you hear about new diet plans or new exercise plans, if you're going through, research or whatever we consider state-of-the-art in biohacking, etc., sometimes you read things and you just say, you know what? Yeah, that's right. Like, that's the truth. I get it. If you need to struggle to understand something and it has to be explained 12 different ways, most likely it's not really the whole truth, honestly. And that's why I tell people all the time, and I'm honestly convinced of this, I really am, that a lot of what we are judging to be true today or figuring out to be true is simply a relearning of what they knew 6,000 plus years ago when they were more connected with nature. So just an example, let's say someone comes up to you and they says, you know what, I'm doing the carnivore diet and I feel absolutely fantastic. All I eat is meat all day. That's it. That's all I do. And I feel great. And I did a whole show. So go back to why the long-term version of this diet is going to be quite unhealthy, but why people can feel good in the short term. So check that out. Just go to stephencabral.com/podcasts and type in carnivore, and you'll be able to find that. But, when you think about that, if you have to say like, oh, well, why do you feel healthier? Well, a lot of people can't tell you why. They just say, I just feel healthier. That is dangerous. If you don't know why you're doing better, but you feel better, that is not necessarily a long-term recipe for good health and success. And again, I went through all the different steps and why. But here's the thing. You could also just say to yourself, okay, so all you eat is meat all day long. Maybe it's 2 meals, maybe it's 3 meals, maybe it's 1 meal, whatever you might be looking at, but you just eat meat. So you have to say to yourself, if I, a human being, an organism that's connected with nature, were to go outside into the environment with no weapons, nothing in hand, but my own body, how my body was designed, how my digestive system was designed, would I be able to catch the food that I'm currently eating right now? I think it's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. I'm not saying not to ever eat meat. That's not what I'm saying, and hopefully you've listened to my previous podcast, or fish, or eggs, or whatever it is that you might like. And it's going to differ for each person and what they choose to eat and what they feel they need for their body. But here's the thing. There's no way, there's no chance you would be able to kill a deer or a cow. It's not even within the realm of possibility that you'd be able to do that with your own given hands, feet, teeth, etc. There's just not a chance. So for you to say, well, that's probably the best human diet, probably not. Probably not. And again, we can back it up with science, but both sides can always show you the science, right? So that's not the thing. But that certainly does not pass any form at all of a natural human diet that humans would have subsided on for millennia and millions of years before they ever had fire to cook food, right? So you'd be eating whatever you eat raw or whatever you get raw. or weapons. So that's a big drawback. So when you think about it, you can simply, you can watch all of these shows, or the survival shows, they put people in nature, right? And even them, they're like creating weapons. Well, what about before that? And even then, how hard is it to catch anything? What are people eating? Well, they're scavenging, right? They're foraging. And they might be eating grubs and worms and beetles and small whatever it is that they could catch, right? Humans aren't truly an apex predator, which means they're not really at the top of the food chain. They would be killed by most larger four-legged animals. That's just how our bodies are built. But I don't want to turn that into today's show. The reason I brought that up today is context. So when someone says to you, this is what you should be doing, you say, well, does that actually make sense from a short-term as well as a long-term perspective? And as I read you the list today, you'll see that there's a stark contrast between if someone puts you on a carnivore diet versus these 7 keys. Because these 7 keys, when you hear them, you know them innately to be true. I don't think most people innately know to be true to only eat meat, right? And also to eat unprocessed meat. So you're eating processed meat. And again, I'm not telling you not to eat meat. That's not today, but I'm telling you to think and keep an open mind in a little bit different of a way. So most people, and again, I'm not saying everyone, if you were to go out and try to kill something, that would be hard. But let's say then you do kill it, you would literally have to tear it open, and I know that sounds graphic, and then start to consume it before fire was ever invented. Let's say that you were able to grab it with your bare hands. And you have to understand is that for the psyche of most people does not work and would not work. But what I'm about to share with you, it vibes. It makes sense. People get it. So again, I'm not saying that you can't eat any meat or eggs or fish or any paleo type protein. And I understand why some people are doing the carnivore diet or keto-based diet. And I explain, I always try to keep an unbiased perspective. But I want you to know that will never be the long-term solution. You may feel well for even a decade or so, but there's a lot of people doing it right now and they're dying in their 50s or 60s. And hey, who knows? Maybe some people will be able to do it and live a long, healthy life. But so far, those people haven't existed. The longest lived people in the world did not subside off a high protein diet. They simply didn't. They do not exist. There are people that lived a fairly disease-free life, eating larger amounts of fish, things like that. Their life expectancy is around 67, 68 years old. We're trying to increase the human lifespan and also do it healthily. All right, I could rant on this all day, and I did do that on the carnivore-based diet show, so you can check that out. And this does not mean that anybody preaching the carnivore-based diet doesn't know what they're talking about. I'm not saying that either. I'm giving you a perspective that I simply want you to use with an open mind. If you immediately tune something out because it does not fit with your current dogma of the day, that's a dangerous thing. You won't allow other information in. I love to listen to the other side of the argument. Tell me why my thinking is wrong. Convince me that I am off track. I want to hear that because my ultimate goal is to help people heal at the greatest possible level. But I do that not from a modern day perspective. Of course, I use functional medicine lab testing and the best of nutritional supplements and everything that we can do today. But I'm not going to discount the fact that we already have 6,000 years of data. We already know how the longest lived people lived. And that's what I'm going to share with you today. So let's get started. The first one is this. The first key is this: sleeping 7 to 8 hours per night. And really, it would be somewhere between 7 and 9 hours per night. And when you hear that, you say, well, yeah, that's probably true. Because when I sleep too little, not that next day maybe, but eventually I get quite tired. And I begin to become more stressed or anxious or overwhelmed. I don't deal with the stress of normal life as well. I start to break down faster. My body becomes more catabolic. I begin to age faster. A lot of people know this, like kind of adding a little humor now. When you have your first child or second child, sleep is, it's at a premium. You're trying to say like, how can I get more sleep? Right? So if you have a newborn and they're up all night or whatever it might be because they're not feeling well or they're a newborn, you might try to sneak in a nap here and there because you know how important sleep is. That makes sense. 7 to 9 hours per night. If I get more than that, well, maybe I'm a little too groggy, right? A little bit more sluggish, or I start to maybe even gain a little bit more weight. Well, Not only that, but we have the science to back it up. We can see here that those people they get, and I'm going to try to link up as many studies as I can today. You can go to stephencabral.com/1266 for today's show, the 7 keys to a long and healthy life. And that is stephencabral.com/1266. I'll link up all the research there. But it showed that those people that got less than 6 hours or more than 9 hours of sleep had a 60 to 70% increased risk of dying during a 9-year period of the study. Now, of course, this was on adults and older adults, not children. Children do need more than 9 hours of sleep per night. But that was an important stat to look at because I know for myself, I can get away with 7, no less than that. But if I start to get in the 6 range, well, I can do it, but eventually it catches up with me. Really important to look at that. Either way, I see people and they're getting away with it, but they're aging at a faster rate. It's taking years off your life. Why? Well, it's more catabolic. You're not getting as much time to rejuvenate. That is normal, right? Unless you're rejuvenating, you're not building the body back up. But more than 9 hours, and actually this was important for me because I had Addison's disease. I had myalgic encephalomyelitis and everything goes along with it, right? The whole chronic fatigue-based symptoms. And I used to try to get 9-10 hours of sleep. I actually felt terrible. I really did. Now, if you have these types of diseases of the body, I really think that you should get 9 hours of sleep. But then you need to start to get into a process of healing the body without as much sleep. So you might have to do a little bit more sleep in the beginning, but you can't make it forever. Really important to look at that. Another study was this, or same study actually, but it was found, I'm going to quote this as well, that those that got 4 or fewer hours of sleep and that those that got 10 or more hours of sleep had a 50% increased risk of dying from a stroke. So we have the higher blood pressure or we have the clotting blood. This is a really important one. This was done in Japan on over 100,000 middle-aged men and women for 14 years. So that was a great study to look at. So similar risks have been done in China and Europe and over the US. And they found that the sweet spot really is somewhere between 7 and 9 hours of sleep per night. So key on that is one of the 7 keys. If you're not there yet, work your way towards it. All right, the next one is this: no eating between meals. Bottom line, I've talked about this before. Check out my previous podcast, Making the Move to 3 meals per day, or just type in 3 meals per day at stephencabral.com/podcast. You'll find that podcast. I give you all the reasons why. I talk about blood sugar sensitivity. I talk about insulin production. I talk about highs and lows in cortisol. I talk about keeping your body burning body fat between meals. I talk about being able to produce more melatonin at night, getting the digestive process at night, not having food in your stomach before you're going to bed. So all of that, extremely important. I'm not going to spend too much time on that, but I'll tell you right now, there are a lot of people, they're following the keto-based diet, they're following the carnivore-based diet, and a lot of the results they're getting, and I'm going to do a whole show on this, it's actually from fasting. It's really not from the diet they're doing, but they're getting the majority of the benefits from keeping their blood sugar regulated, and they're eliminating a lot of the processed food, and they're fasting, right? They're fasting between meals. They're not eating all day long. They're eating a lunch and a dinner, or they're eating a breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and they're fasting between that. Fast between meals, you begin to see your digestion improve, your clarity of thinking improve, your GI tract, all of that begins to improve because you're not always putting food in. And when you're not always putting food in, then you're not losing all of that energy on simply digestion. So test that out. Remember, longest lived people did this as well. The third part goes along with the second, but it's all about routine. Now, I talked a little bit about it with sleep, but I didn't talk about the sleep routine. Get to bed within a half hour of the same time every night. Super important, okay? Wake up within a half hour of the same time every day. Do your best, okay? Yes, every once in a while, on a Saturday or Sunday, I'll sleep for an extra hour than I would typically would during the week, okay? I do that, and yes, so I can say I'm guilty sometimes as well for doing that on the weekend. But I get that extra hour in, and I enjoy it. But you want to keep a sleep schedule if you're someone with sleep issues, that's the way to do it. Same for regular meal timing. That means within a half hour of the same time every day, get in your breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Super important. I'm going to get to the breakfast. Well, why don't I talk about it now? Okay. There are people that go back and forth on breakfast. I talked about the benefits of skipping breakfast. I've talked about the benefits of eating breakfast. This is very important to look at. And here's why. I think this is crucial because most people, believe it or not, do better eating breakfast. They really do. And there are many studies that back this up. I'll link up this study as well. But men that ate breakfast and didn't eat between meals, so yes, there's multiple factors to this study, had 50%, that means half the risk of dying, all-cause mortality, than those that skipped breakfast and snacked. Now, I can also say, well, snacking between meals could cause a rise in blood sugar, a rise in insulin production, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Could cause more chances, you have more time for eating processed foods. So I get it. Believe me, I'm not naive to that, right? But also they ate breakfast. And I'm going to get into some of the reasons why. I'm going to do a whole podcast on this. But there was another study, and it was done on those between the ages of 60 and 94, when it really matters, right? Once you get over the age of 60, you really have to fine-tune this a little bit more. You honestly do. There's less leeway. There's less of that flexibility in the body. And it showed that those that did not eat breakfast had a 50% increased risk of all-cause mortality as well with those that consume breakfast. Now, here's the thing though. You don't want to just sit down to a glass of orange juice and something that's going to spike your blood sugar. That's not what you want to do at all. But what you want to do is make sure you're not just drinking a cup of coffee or a pot of coffee in the morning. And it shows that those people that ate breakfast, especially either some easy to digest fruit or something simple in the morning, were able to decrease the stickiness of the platelets in their blood and decrease their chance of heart attacks. Because when we look at it, when heart attacks occur, we can also see that it oftentimes happens in the morning from stickiness or simply a larger amount of platelets in the blood. So I like looking at all of these things. I think it's super important. Less stickiness in the blood, you could do that by simply getting up, drinking a glass of water with a pinch of Himalayan sea salt, and squeezing a whole lime in that, right? So you can certainly do that as well. And that's going to help with the stickiness of your blood. So here's the thing. At least hydrate in the morning if you're not going to do something like a smoothie. And it also doesn't need to be upon waking. You can wait a couple hours before eating in the morning. But what I'm saying is get into a regular eating schedule. And after you achieve your goals, whatever it might be, you might want to just think about adding in breakfast into your day. I'm not going to tell you to do that, but I'll tell you right now, most of the people that I introduce this form of breakfast, they have no issues with weight loss, and they increase their body's ability to adapt and handle stress, especially all morning long. Overall, their attention span, their mood, all of those things get much better. So I'm not even telling you the breakfast to eat. Of course, it should be a natural, hydrating breakfast, but I do have many podcasts on the best breakfast foods that you can choose. Okay, this is a topic I talk about quite often, and it's maintaining the proper weight. Even on yesterday's show, that was episode 1265, I talk about this, but extremely important that you maintain a proper body weight. Honestly, I've done a lot of wellness and weight loss Wednesday shows around this. You have to maintain a proper body weight. You can look at my shows on BMI. You can look at my shows on body fat percentage. You can look at my shows at waist-hip ratio. All factors, you kind of factor them all in. BMI is not going to be perfect for everyone, but for the general population, it's still a pretty good indicator of overall weight. What you need to do, though, is you don't need to be stick thin. I'm not talking about that. I never want to be confused with someone that says you need to get into fitness competitor-based shape. I'm not saying that, but what I am saying is that you really should have a pretty flat stomach. You don't need to see your abs, but you should have an overall in-shape physique. Why? Because it's going to allow you to have less chance for cancer, less chance for stroke, heart attacks, and type 2 diabetes. And if you can get rid of those four factors, you've almost, not fully, but you've almost guaranteed yourself a nice long life into your 80s without being medicated. There's still autoimmune factors that you need to watch for those types of things, for sure. But you really decreased your all-cause mortality by well over 50%. We're talking more like 2/3 to 80%. And I did a show on that as well, because those are the top four things that you need to watch out for. And maintaining a healthy weight does that. Now, the nice thing is that typically to get to that healthy weight, you need to be doing the things that make you healthy, right? So you need to be eating more of the plant-based foods. You need to be getting in your antioxidants. So you need to be moving your body that I'm going to be getting to next. So you have to do those things in the first place to get you to the healthy weight, which is why you'll probably also live longer as well, right? All right, next up is this. Exercise regularly. I've gone over this multiple times, but everyone agrees you need to move your body at least 150 minutes per week. On, I believe it was last week's Training Thursday show, the 200 minutes a week. I think that's fair. I really do. So think of it this way. 150 minutes is 30 minutes, 5 days a week. Okay? 150 minutes is 30 minutes, 5 days a week. Okay? And you can honestly achieve this even with walking, even though walking is not going to be the best body transformation form of exercise for you. So you can achieve it with walking. Now, let's say we move it over to 200 minutes a week. Now we're looking at 40 minutes, 5 days a week, or we can move it down to more like 30, 35 minutes or so, 6 days a week. So when you look at it overall, we're not asking for a lot of movement from the human body. But we did see with all the longest lived populations that they did move their body. They did walk 10,000 plus steps a day. They did some manual-based labor. Well, we don't really do manual labor today as much. We don't, right? We automate all of that for the most part. Now, of course, some people are working in manual labor. I did manual type labor throughout basically, right up through college. Well, and even after that, right? Because I work as a personal trainer as well. And I'm moving my body all day. I'm picking up weights for clients. And then, of course, I'm doing my workouts. But I would love you to do 40 minutes, 4 days a week of exercise, right? Or 30 minutes, 4 days a week, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, or Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then a Saturday. And then I would love you to get your 10,000 steps of walking per day. That's what I would love you to do. So remember, this is one of those ones, and this is why I'm doing this on a Training Thursday show. People overlook this. They say, okay, yes, I know. I need to sleep 7 to 8 hours a night. Okay, I get that. I'll get minimum of 7. Great, you can do that. No eating between meals. Sure, it might be difficult, might be challenging, but you can work your way up to it. Make sure you eat enough of the meal before, enough protein, enough fiber, enough good healthy fats, enough good healthy carbs. Okay, so you stay satiated. Great. Eating regular breakfast. Okay, well, I can do a smoothie. I might still wait a couple hours after waking, whatever it is, right? Okay, you can do that. Maintaining a proper weight. Okay, it's going to take some work, but you'll get to there. And you know that it makes sense, right? The more overweight you are, the more scientific research there is that you're going to, hopefully you avoid it. Hopefully you do. But it's just much higher likelihood of cancer, type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular risk, strokes, heart attack, etc. Right? So yes, let's lose some weight. Let's do a functional medicine detox. Let's get into a healthy meal plan, and let's exercise our bodies, right? Our bodies were meant to move. There's not a creature out there, right, like us that isn't supposed to be moving their body, that isn't active during the day. You would need to move around to be able to build your shelter, to be able to gather food all day, to go on a hunt, whatever it is, right? So move your body, mimic the natural human motions. So hopefully all that makes sense. This is a difficult one for us to do because we don't really want to exercise. Our bodies say, no, it's kind of nice. It's just kind of nice to sit. But the more we sit, the more at risk we are for dis-ease. A great study, let me see. Well, I can remember it right off the top of my head, and then I'll find the study for you. But those people that sat for more than 4 hours per day, 4 hours per day, showed a 40% increased risk at a higher death rate. So again, all-cause mortality. And you might say, well, I need to sit at my desk for my job. Listen, I get it. I understand that as well. But what I would say is this. You're sitting at your desk, but get up and walk during lunch. Get up and walk to the bathroom, walk to the water cooler, whatever it might be. Just get up for all those excuses you can during the day and walk. And then maybe for some of the day, you can do a standing desk. Although I don't love that all the time because people lock out their knees and they pull blood in the lower legs. But maybe you could get on an exercise bike if you work from home, and you could bike and you could be doing your work. Or maybe you could do a walking treadmill, or you could walk and do your emails, walk and do your phone calls. I do that quite often now. I really do. I walk and do my phone calls. I just try to get my body moving just a bit more. Super important to look at that. All right, let's go back. I'll link up these studies. Number 6 is this: moderate or no drinking of alcohol. I did a Friday review in this. More than 2 to 3 glasses of alcohol per week, increased risk for disease, Alzheimer's, and early death. 2 to 3 drinks a week. So if you love alcohol, well, 1 glass a night for 3 nights a week, or 1 night a week, which is better, so you're not expanding the inflammation over multiple days and liver toxicity. Because remember, alcohol, the reason you feel that way is you're poisoning your blood a little bit. I hate to put it that way, I know. And I'm not saying that I never drink. I do. I'm literally not saying that. I would never give you advice that I couldn't possibly follow myself. But if you keep it to once a week, or just every once in a while, once a month, or whatever it is that you enjoy doing in your life, especially if you're trying to heal, you have to get rid of the alcohol for now. You can come back to it once you're well, Once you're feeling better, you might choose to. And at that point, you may not even want it anymore. But here's the thing. 2 to 3 glasses a week, decide how you want to split it up, right? However you want to split it up. 6 ounces of wine, 12 ounces of beer, 1.5 to 2 ounces of a hard alcohol. That's typically how it breaks down to a drink, all right? And then the last one is this, no smoking. If you smoke right now, whether it is cannabis or marijuana, right? Because people are saying, well, there's the benefits are this, and this. If you inhale smoke into your lungs, okay? Cigar, marijuana, cigarettes, vaping, anything. If you inhale smoke into your body, that is a carcinogen, akin to eating burnt meat or processed meats, right? We've seen this, that smoking literally, it will 4,000+% greater chance of cancer. Please do not inhale smoke into your lungs. We see what it does to the chemicals, obviously, that firefighters are exposed to, but also the smoke, of what it does with the increased risk of cancer. Please do not purposely breathe smoke into your lungs. If you smoke right now, out of everything I just named, all 7, do your best to work on number 7. Find a hypnotist, find a therapist, a program, do whatever you need to work on stop smoking. We've been very successful with helping people as an adjunct with doing functional medicine detoxes, getting them to do daily saunas, getting them to do smoothies for breakfast, more of a plant-based diet, and their body no longer wants to put that nicotine and tar and smoke into the body. They're doing all these healthy things, and then gradually they're just like, I just don't even want to smoke. I become repulsed by it. So that's one way to do it. Begin to crowd it out, right? It's kind of like, it's the old theory, well, keep it in for right now, but keep doing all the healthy things so that you wouldn't even want to be doing this, right? It's a gentler approach rather than just kind of forcing your body to stop, which is really difficult, right? So just kind of crowd it out. That's one of my favorite ways to do it. So here's the thing. I'm going to go over this again. The 7 keys to a long and healthy life. Sleeping 7 to 9 hours a night. 7 to 8 hours is appropriate for most people. No eating between meals. Okay, no snacking. Let's just get rid of it. Eat a big enough meal where you feel satiated. Okay, now again, that's an Ayurvedic thing as well. Eat a regular breakfast. You might be someone that likes to do intermittent fasting. I do intermittent fasting. I fast between 12 and 14 hours every day. I don't fast until lunch though. I'm going to be talking that. I'm going to be teaching a healthy weight loss based course this coming fall. And I'm going to be teaching people the Ayurvedic methods to weight loss. If you do decide to skip breakfast, at least hydrate your body. Okay, nice tall glass of water or a lot of water throughout the morning. Squeeze some lemon in it, a pinch of sea salt or lime you can use instead of lemon, even healthier. And then you could say, I'm going to do some maybe ginger tea or just drink plenty of water, right? To create more viscosity in the blood, unbind all of those platelets. It's something that I did for many, many years, and I still do to this day, but I look at blood under a microscope and I can actually see the agglutination of those red blood cells. So get enough hydration in you. Okay, number 4 is this, maintain a proper body weight. Just get within a healthy waist-hip ratio, a healthy BMI, a healthy body fat, 18 to 22% for women, 14 to 18% for men. You don't need to look like a fitness competitor, but get your body in overall healthy shape. Then, exercise regularly. Again, it's not for vanity, it's not for weight loss. Move your body. Move your body, get it moving. 10,000 steps a day, you can work up to it as well. I have many shows on all of this. Number 6 is this. The last 2 are basically a removal. Drink as little alcohol as possible. That's the bottom line. Save it for once a week. Enjoy that night a week. You might do a flex meal along with it. Enjoy yourself. I'm not saying you can't do that, right? I'm not saying that you can't. They've done it since the dawn of time, since they were able to ferment, fruit or other things to create alcohol or grains. So every once in a while, fine, but not moderation every day. That has not been shown. If anything, it's been shown to cause mortality or earlier death. And the last one is this. Don't smoke. Simply don't smoke. Do whatever you can to quit smoking and be very careful with anything of where you are inhaling smoke. And that goes for cannabis, it goes for vaping, it goes for cigars, it goes for cigarettes, anything where you're inhaling smoke, be careful, right? That's one of those things where we don't want to ingest a carcinogen, a known cancer-causing chemical. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. If it was helpful, if it helped to expand your mind a little bit, to get you to think, sure, all of these 7 things, they're not earth-shattering. They make sense. And the things that make sense aren't always that sexy, right? They're not always something you're going to create this book or marketing plan around. But what you're going to do is you're going to begin to live them and you know them to be the truth. I spoke about them. They're all part of my de-stress protocol in the Rain Barrel Effect. If you haven't read it yet, I do invite you to check out that book. It's on Amazon. It's on equilibriumnutrition.com. You'll be able to find it in most places, and it is the exact protocol I give to people in my practice. Thank you so much for tuning in. Again, as always, please do feel free to share this show with anyone you believe it could serve. Have an amazing day. I want to sincerely thank you for your support of this podcast. I couldn't do it without you, and I mean that. I truly do. I also want to make sure you knew that we now have multiple ways for you to find your answers to the most difficult health, wellness, weight loss, and anti-aging questions. You can find podcast-specific topics like thyroid, adrenal, hormones, sleep, digestion, Ayurveda, and many more at stevencabral.com/podcasts that will then link you to your favorite Apple, Spotify, and other podcast players. Plus, all new podcasts and weekly exclusive video content is being added to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Stephen Cabral. And that's Stephen with a PH. Head on over and subscribe so that you don't miss any of the exclusive content. Lastly, if you've ever found any of my podcasts or books to be helpful, I would really appreciate it if you could leave a review on iTunes or your favorite media player for the podcast. Rating and subscribing to the YouTube and podcast allow me to reach more and more people and help spread my mission of healing throughout the world. Thank you again for being a part of this movement.